Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Maan. Uh, I don't know about you, man, but watching these playoff games is very, very tough, especially knowing with a healthy Joey B that we are probably talking about a Bengal divisional round game right now. Instead, we are talking about free agency and all the offseason stuff that we're going to start talking about tonight. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And, feel good about where this organization is going, hopefully into next year. Before we get started, though, Mon, how was your week? How's everything been, man?
Good. It feels like it's been a while since I've been on the show. It's been a really weird work schedule. This is a really busy time for me, working at the fire department, obviously, but school starts back up at the college, doing a lot of teaching and clinical work at the college. And I just feel like it's a really busy time, but I'm glad to be back on the pulse. Yeah, you know what? It sucks. The Bengals aren't in the playoffs, but it was so much fun watching those games last week. It's just football is the best, man. I absolutely love it. It would be better if the Bengals were playing, obviously, but so much fun and a lot to talk about. And man, it's going to be a really exciting offseason.
It is. Hooday, everybody. Thank you guys for joining in on the chat. We are going to, tonight's show, we want you guys to be involved as much as possible when we start talking about, hey, Mark, Hooday, when we start talking about our free agency and where this is going to go. Hooday, guys, Roshan, Yash, thank you very much, guys, for jumping in. All right, before we do them on, how great of a storyline is this? I was thinking about this the other day. It's just fantastic. So the Cleveland Browns, right? They have this quarterback named Baker Mayfield, a guy who goes out and what does he do? He wins them their first playoff game in years, destroying the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what do the Cleveland Browns do? Well, they find a way to Cleveland Brown it up. They get rid of him. They go out. They give Deshaun Watson, a guy that hasn't played in 18 months or so. They go out. They give him the worst contract in NFL history, setting their franchise back decades, giving up 3 first-round picks. And the team that they do that to, right, that they give all these picks to, that they take Deshaun Watson from, they go out and they get beat by 31 points or 30-something points in a playoff game by the team that they basically has destroyed their organization for the next 2 decades. And not only that, but the icing on top, the guy that started it all, that won them their last playoff game that they got rid of and did so wrong to, guess what, man? He's playing in the divisional round. It's absolutely just, you cannot write a better script for the Cleveland Browns, for the Factory of Sadness. I mean, can you imagine having to be a Cleveland Brown fan and having to just go through this year after year? It's almost like somebody's just playing a cruel joke on the Cleveland Browns, and I'm here for every minute of it, Mon. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I sent out a tweet during the game. After the game, the Browns are $12 million over the cap, no first round pick, and they still owe that quarterback over $200 million in guaranteed money. It hit a nerve. It went viral on Twitter, at least for me, my account. I was getting beat up. Steeler fans were jumping in, Raven fans. It was the best. And the Browns fans, it cracked me up. They go, "Who cares? Our we're not in salary cap hell. Our owner spends money. Our owner this. That's fine. You got to. They're kicking the can down the road. Sooner or later, that bill is going to be due." Jake, what gets me the most about the Browns, they had a lot of injuries. They made it to the playoffs. They won double-digit games. Hats off to them. They fired their offensive coordinator today. They fired their tight end coach today, and they fired their running back coach today. They probably the 3 best coaches on the staff.
It is the 3 best coaches on the staff.
Think about it. The 4th string quarterback, their offensive coordinator pieced it together. Stump Mitchell, the running back coach, he lost his bell cow, probably the best running back in football. All right. And he had to bring in Kareem Hunt, the management did. And then the kid Ford from Cincinnati played really well. Tight end, Njoku's the best player on offense for him. They have another great tight end. Every position group of those coaches that were fired excelled this year. They really did. You can't make it up. Maybe the Browns are switching their offense. They're trying to be the Ravens of 2024, bring in a new system. I don't know what they're doing. You know what? They are. I said something to some people I was battling with on Twitter. They win the off-season Super Bowl every year. They sign the most free agents. They signed splashy this, splashy that. Everybody pencils them as the next, great team. They're off-season champions. I think 10 of the last 12 years. Congratulations. Congratulations.
I love that Cleveland Browns fan that does that Factory of Sadness thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, I know you and I, we watch it every year. The thing you sent me, the Cleveland tourist thing, guys, if you have not seen that, you have got to go on YouTube. I don't know, what is it called? Like Cleveland tourism?
It's the unofficial tourism video of Cleveland. It's about 10 years old, 10, 12 years old.
It's so great.
It's still hilarious. It's
hilarious. I just, honestly, and this is not, we're not talking about the Cleveland Browns tonight, but it really just when you think that team is going the right direction, it's like the most unheard of, impossible, destructive thing happens. And I just think it's great. I'm here for every minute of it. I'm rooting. I would love to see Baker Mayfield just keep going while the Cleveland Browns sit at home and watch Baker Mayfield. It's just hysterical. It's just great.
Last thing I want to say about the Cleveland Browns, we're about the Cincinnati Bengals. But the last 10 years, they have accumulated so much talent, so much draft equity. They've done so many things. I mean, they had a good year this year, but for them not to be more productive in that 10-year span shows how inept that franchise is.
Oh.
Yeah, you throw all the money you want, do what you need. It doesn't equate to success. It doesn't. And I mean, at one time, some of the talent they had is really impressive. They haven't done anything with it. And I hope they continue that trend. Let's talk about the Bengals.
Before we do, though, I mean, seriously, can you imagine going out and giving Deshaun Watson, again, the worst contract in NFL history, by far, the worst contract in NFL history? They go out, they get rid of all of their draft capital for the next 3 years, and they go and they sign Joe Flacco off the couch, and he's better than Deshaun Watson. I mean, it's just fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing, Cleveland. We absolutely love it. I'm here for every minute of it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Maan, they show that they did not belong in the playoffs, just like the Cleveland Browns. Both teams just absolutely embarrassing themselves and embarrassing our division as they go home. And we are now down. Obviously, the Dolphins too. They obviously didn't belong in the playoffs as well. So we're down to the Final Four. Baltimore host Houston on Saturday, and then on Sunday you have the Chiefs visiting the Buffalo Bills. What do you think, real quick, Mom, before we move on to free agency? What do you think about those two AFC games? Who is going to be playing the AFC Championship? Who do you think?
The home teams definitely have an advantage there. It pains me to talk about some of these teams because I despise them. But Kansas City is Kansas City. They're the Super Bowl champs. Mahomes, they just they find a way to win. In Buffalo, it's going to be tough. That place is going to be rocking. But I heard a podcast today describe Josh Allen. They call him Captain Chaos. I mean, how true is that? He does these unbelievable wow plays, and then he does the biggest knucklehead plays. So you don't know what Josh Allen's going to do. I'm gonna have to go with the home teams there. I'm gonna have to go, unfortunately, with Baltimore and Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. The Texans, though, would not shock me at all if they give the Ravens fits and find a way to win. The Texans remind me of the Cincinnati Bengals of 2021 a little bit. They really do.
They do.
Guys, that quarterback, is special. Stroud is a good football player. He's going to be a problem for years. And I would not be surprised at all if they win.
Well, I said last week that the team to beat in the AFC is the Houston Texans. I'm going to stick with that, Mon. I think the road teams both win this weekend. I think the Kansas City Chiefs go into Buffalo, and Josh Allen does his thing and throws 3 interceptions and just makes absolutely horrendous decisions. And the Kansas City Chiefs just kind of do their thing and win it at the end. And again, with Houston, I said this last week. I said, watch out for Houston. I said on this show they were going to blow out the Browns. I'm telling you right now, the Houston Texans, I think they're playing better football than anyone in the AFC right now. And I will not be surprised if the Houston Texans are in Kansas City for the AFC Championship game. I will not be surprised at all.
Jake, how many times have we seen teams that get the bye week and they come out sluggish and they come out slow? They're not, I don't want to say they're not prepared, but they're a little rusty. And, the Ravens rested some of their players. They really had about 3 weeks off. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. Playing in Baltimore, it's going to be amped up. It's going to be really crazy. But, numbers are numbers. I'm not here to pile on the Ravens, but their quarterback's playoff record isn't very stellar. So we'll see how it shakes out. I want the Texans to win, and I want – I'm going to say it. I want Kansas City to beat Buffalo. Buffalo, for some reason, has gotten on my bad side, and they really have. They really have. I think that quarterback is cocky, and I can't believe I just said I want Kansas City to win.
Well, I agree, Curtis, with you 110%. I think Lamar Jackson did not want to see the Houston Texans this weekend. CJ Stroud you're right, Curtis. CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans are playing with house money. Like you said, they remind me of that 21 Bengal team. I'm telling you, they're young. They don't care. They just go out and play football. They are, and D'Amico Ryans has done a hell of a job in Houston. That right there to me is the coach of the year, is D'Amico Ryans, for with a rookie quarterback. Again, I think it's going to be 2 good football games, but I think the road teams are going to win. And unfortunately, I think this AFC Championship is going to be played in Kansas City. But we shall see. Should be interesting. All right, let's move on now to Eric's here. Awesome. Yeah. Welcome, Eric.
Come on up, Eric. Come on up. I guess you don't want.
There he is. Eric, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man.
You're muted.
You're muted, bud.
Yeah, I apologize. My room's not set up or anything. I had to rush on because this is too much Browns and Steelers talk. Let's get to some Bengals talk.
That's funny. All right, so yes, I agree. No biz. I agree with Mon too. Unfortunately, except for I don't know. I don't think the Ravens are going all the way. I just don't see it. Okay, let's get to Bengals. Let's get to Bengals talk here. It does suck, man. It sucks not playing this weekend. All right. First, Mon, we are going to talk about Bengal free agency. And in particular, we're going to talk about our free agents that are going to be coming up here in 2024. We have our unrestricted free agents, which I'm going to talk about first. And what we're going to do, Mon, is I'm going to go through and list each individual unrestricted Bengal free agent. And I want you to tell me percentage-wise, what is the chance of them being in stripes again next year, okay? After we do unrestricted, we're going to go to restricted, and then we're going to go to exclusive rights because we have a couple of those as well. Now, guys, just in case you don't understand the free agency and how it works, unrestricted free agents are the free agents who basically are free to sign anywhere with any team at any time. Okay. So we have quite a bit of those, unfortunately, but we're going to talk about those guys first. So these are the Bengal unrestricted free agents coming up here in 2024. Are you ready, Mon? You're going to tell me the percentage of the chance of them being back in stripes. You ready to do this?
I'll give you a percentage and just a brief overview of why I think that. Is that okay?
And if you want to use the tag, go ahead and use the tag. Again, Houday, everybody. Thank you guys so much for jumping in tonight and being here with us. Here we go. And you guys as well. Listen, guys, please, in the comments section, let us know your percentages, who you think of these Bengal free agents are going to be back in stripes next year. Here we go. Number 1, T. Higgins. T. Higgins, the number 1 unrestricted free agent on the Bengals roster. And number 4, I think PFF has him as number 4 in the entire unrestricted free agent market. T. Higgins, what's the percentage of him being back in Cincinnati next year?
100%. He's going to get tagged. He's going to get tagged, and he's going to be a Bengal for at least one more year. I'm sticking with 100%. I was thinking tag and trade. I just don't see that happening. He's so important. And especially of what Joe Burrow said at that press conference, T. Higgins, to me, 100%. Yeah, maybe I should have said 95, but I'm sticking at 100%.
Agree. I am going to agree with you 100%. I think T. Higgins is tagged, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to give you a hot take. I think the Bengals re-sign him. I think the Bengals re-sign T. Higgins before it is all said and done. But yes, I agree. T. Higgins 100% will be in Cincinnati next year. We know there's a long list of guys, a long list of Bengal players that, we talk about. This is their last year. The Bengals going to trade, maybe get some draft capital. That has never – I can't even remember when that has ever happened. You look at guys like Andy Dalton and A.J. Green and Jesse Bates, and the list goes on and on and on of guys who the Bengals had a chance to trade and get capital and never did. Let them walk after their contract was up. All right, T. Higgins, 100%. Number 2, DJ Reader. What is the percentage of DJ Reader being back in Cincinnati next year?
I'm going to say 50%. My heart wants it to be 100.
Okay.
DJ Reader, to me, anybody that watches the Bengals Pulse, we called him the quarterback of our defense. I think he's the second most important player on the team. I would love for him to come back, but he's coming off a significant injury. It's his second torn quad, separate each leg. And guys, it's going to be a pretty hefty contract for him to come back. I guess we need to determine how he's recovering from that. Maybe we can get him on a 1-year rental because I don't think he'll be ready week 1. I really don't. I would not lose. I would be very happy if he came back, but I think it's 50-50 right now. And more info needed on that one. Let's put it that way. Need to see how he's progressing with rehab.
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to say there's over 50% chance that DJ Reader is back in stripes. I think it happens. I think he's invaluable in that locker room. The Bengals have seen what happens when you let guys like Jesse Bates and Von Bell walk. And I don't think they let DJ Reader walk. He's a captain, and I think he continues to be a captain. All right, Tyler Boyd. Mom, what are the chances of Tyler Boyd being back in Cincinnati?
I say 15%. I just don't see it happening. I guess that number could go up if something happens with T in a tag and trade. I think Boyd's going to wind up in Pittsburgh. I really do. Yeah. I think he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler next year. I'm a big fan of Tyler Boyd, but I just don't see it happening. 15%.
I don't think he'll be back either, and I'm going to say it's more because of his struggles. I think the struggles are real, and for whatever reason, I think Tyler Boyd. I think maybe if this was a real productive year, we might have seen something different, but it wasn't, and we've seen a lack of production continue to decline. I'll say so. I don't see. I see. If you say 15%, I think it might. I take the under on that. All right, here we go. Trenton Irwin, Mon. Trent Irwin, wide receiver. Trent Irwin. What are the chances of him being back in Cincy?
I'm going to say about 70%. He's not going to be expensive. He's got good chemistry. Trenton Irwin is who he is. He's not a dynamic threat. He's a solid player. Especially Tyler Boyd stepping away. I think they need another veteran presence there. 75% for Irwin.
I'm going to agree. I think Irwin, there's a real good shot of him being a Bengal again next year. Very productive this year. These last couple years, we've seen Trent Irwin step up and make some big time plays. I think Trent Irwin has a really good chance to be back in stripes next year. And we know too that Joe Burrow has a lot of trust in Trent Irwin. And again, I think that Joe Burrow effect is very real, and I think it happens with Trent Irwin. All right, here we go. Chido Awuzie.
I think I said this the other day when you mentioned it. I'm going to put it at 65%. I know he had an uneven year. I know he really did. He picked it up a little bit towards the tail end coming off that ACL. The Bengals need a veteran corner. They're very young back there. He's been in the system. I think his struggles a little bit might bring his price down to where the Cincinnati Bengals give him, make a good attempt to sign him. I'm going to say 60% on Cheeto.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's probably the most interesting of all of these guys, right? Because we did see a lack of production this year. And so maybe the Bengals might not have to pay as much as, I think maybe originally was thought when this season started. So Cheeto's going to be an interesting one. All right, here we go. Jonah Williams. Mom, what are the chances of him being back in stripes?
Jonah Williams played really well at right tackle. Surprised me. I've never been a big fan of his, and people that watch his show know that. I was wrong. He played really, really well for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think he wants to come back. I think he wants to be a left tackle. That's not going to happen here. And he played well. I know not everybody doesn't really follow Pro Football Focus. Some people love it, some people don't. Pro Football Focus wasn't a big fan of his play this year. 61 out of 80 tackles. That is, it is what it is. But I don't think he's going to be back, and I think it's more on him. I don't think he wants to come back. I'm going to make it 20%.
20%, and Bruce agrees with you right there. Look at that, 20%. Mike says Jonah 0%. I'm going to agree with Mike. I think there is no chance that Jonah is in stripes next year. I know
$75 in a cheeseburger.
I know a lot of Bengal fans want to see the sign T and tag Jonah. I just don't see that happening. I don't see the Bengals tagging Jonah. And I don't think Jonah will be back next year. I just don't see it happening. All right. But you said, what would you say, 20%?
I did say 20%. And one thing about Jonah, though, if they did sign him, if something happened to Orlando Brown, Jonah Williams could play left tackle too. So, I get the value there. It's a premium position. I get it. I think he just doesn't want to be here. He wants to be a left tackle. And, his career in Cincinnati has been uneven. It really has been. And this draft is loaded on offensive tackle. There's veterans out there. So, I'm not going to lose any sleep if he leaves.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I just saw what Ronald put. That's funny. I wouldn't give Jonah $75 and a cheeseburger. That's good. Yeah, and Roshan says, if no Boyd, where are we gonna find that production? And we'll talk about that here in a couple of minutes for sure. All right, here we go. Now we're getting into our role players, Mon. Our role players. This is a handful of guys that, again, maybe aren't starters, but, we see quite a bit. Here we go. Markus Bailey, Mon. What are the chances of him being back in stripes?
I'm going to say 75%. He's become a core special teamer. He's very, very important to Darren Simmons. He's not going to be expensive. And, he doesn't get to play a lot. They only play 2 linebackers. But he's a very, very important piece on special teams.
Okay. All right. 75% for Markus Bailey. Akeem Davis Gaither.
You know what? I think the Bengals will attempt it. I just don't see him coming back. I think he's going to be a player that leaves and has a productive career on another roster. I've always been a fan of his, but the Bengals don't keep a lot of linebackers, 5 to 6 a year. I say 30%.
Okay, all right. Your favorite free agent signing this last period, Irv Smith Jr. Mon, what happens with your guy? And are you going to get rid of the jersey, the Irv Smith jersey that you bought? Are you going to get rid of that?
I haven't received it yet. I don't know what jersey you're talking about.
Irv Smith.
I was expecting bigger things out of him. It didn't materialize. I'd say 5% at best.
5% at best. I'll take the under on that. There's no way he's coming back. All right, here we go. Josh Tupou.
You know, I always liked Josh Tupou. He was part of the Marvin Lewis era. There's something about the defensive line, guys. They keep 10 players on the defensive line. There's going to be a complete overhaul. There really is. I could see 4, maybe 5 of the 10. Of course, the big guys, Hill. Hubbard's not going anywhere. I know there's been talk about that. Hendrickson. They're not going to go anywhere. Murphy's going to be on the roster. I could see 5 to 6 new faces on the 2024 Bengals roster. The Bengals are going to attack that in free agency big time, and I expect at least 2 draft picks from this draft to be defensive linemen, defensive tackles. Expect the Bengals to spend big on that defensive tackle spot this offseason. It's going to happen.
All right. Well, hopefully it does.
Tupou's 10%. 10%.
All right. Mark disagrees. Mark says 85 to 90%. Josh Tupou. The last Marvin. Well, no, there's 4 left. One of the 4 last Marvin guys is gone, according to Maan. Here we go. Max Sharping.
I'll say 50%. I'll say 50%. Okay. You know, Cody Ford ended up taking his backup snaps, and he became the number 1 reserve player to come off the bench. It was Sharping there for a little while. I'm going to say 50. I'll make it 60% because he did basically take over our backup center spot. So I'll make it 60% for Sharping.
Okay, 60% for Sharping. The one and only Drew Sample. Mom, what are the chances that Drew Sample is back in stripes?
85%. I think he became a very important part of that offense with his blocking. He showed a little bit receiving the ball, had a couple touchdowns, I believe, last year. Guys, we can't knock his blocking. He's very important there. Became our de facto fullback, basically. I know he was a second-round pick, and people criticize that, but he's going to be one of our tight ends next year. He's going to be one of the 4.
Okay. All right. Okay. Drew Sample coming back. Travion Williams, our number 3 running back. Is he coming back?
I'd say 40%. 40% chance right now. I don't think the team is unhappy with him, but I expect a lot of new blood in the running back room.
Bruce,
a lot of new faces.
Bruce wants to know how old Drew Sample is now. I think, what is this? Is this his 6th year he just finished?
Drew Sample is, I'm looking right here, date of birth, 1996. So what does that make him? He's 28?
28. So this would be, I think he just finished his 6th year in Cincinnati, 28 years old. Again, a role player, a guy that the Bengals, I think, could get a really good home discount on. Travion Williams, you say 40%. Travion is coming back. AJ McCarron.
20%.
20% for AJ McCarron. I'm going to take the over on that. I think AJ McCarron very well could be back in Bengals stripes again as the 3rd string quarterback, of course. But I think AJ McCarron's got a shot. Joe Bocci.
I'll say 50%. 50%. He's a good special teams player. He's been very, very He's like a Markus Bailey, good core special teams player. I could see maybe 50%. I do see the Bengals maybe using a fourth, fifth, or sixth round pick on a linebacker, a young guy, and we'll see how that shakes out.
Okay, all right. And last but not least, the last unrestricted Bengal free agent, Cody Ford.
I think 80%. I think the coaching staff really liked him,
Okay.
especially if it looks like Pollock is going to remain the offensive line coach. They really leaned on him a lot. 85%. 85%.
85%. Okay, so I'm just going to go back real quick, and I'm just going to say the guys that you think have a 50% chance or better of being a Bengal next year. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here they go. T. Higgins, DJ Reader, Trenton Irwin, Cheeto Awuzie, Markus Bailey, Drew Sample, Max Sharping, Joe Bocci, and Cody Ford. How does that list sound to you?
I thought I had Sharping at 40.
You actually had him at 60.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That different there. I mean, the only reason I say that, I think he was, our main backup center. I see the Bengals drafting a center this year also. That's fair. That's fair with me. Like I said, it's just my opinion. I can
and so with that, if the Bengals do draft a center, are you saying that Trey Hill's gone?
Him or Sharping will be. They will. Listen, they drafted Hill, 2 years ago? He hasn't really gotten a lot of opportunities. Karras has been healthy. But I don't know. I am so confused about this offensive line. Jake, it wasn't as good as 2022. I think they had an uneven season, and I just want better play out of it. And Karras really came on strong. Volson started playing a little better. I think Kappa had an off year. We're going to have a new right tackle. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Orlando Brown got a lot better the second half of the season. We have some key pieces there, but we have to continue drafting young talent because Kappa and Karras, they're coming up on the last years of their contract. I think Kappa has another year. So you know how the Bengals are. They always draft 1 year ahead. So Karras, this is his last year. They're going to draft a center to potentially replace him.
So Ronald says he likes Chevy better than Ford, but not bad as a backup. And Mark, I want to say this too. Mark earlier talked about La'el Collins coming back at right tackle. What do you think about La'el Collins? What's the chances of him coming back?
I don't know. If he's healthy, I guess they could consider it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Bengals are going to spend good money in free agency on defensive line. If they could get, a vet, somebody that could be a stopgap at right tackle, they draft a young guy. They're going to add pieces in the trenches because, we've talked about it. They've really struggled there, especially in the AFC North. They've got to get bigger, better, stronger there. So La'el Collins is that. Yeah. We'll see how it shakes out. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Anything is open there.
Okay, so we're not done yet because we have 4 more Bengal free agents to talk about, all right? Here are the 2 restricted Bengal free agents. Now, again, for you guys that don't follow free agency very closely, restricted means same thing. They're free to negotiate and sign with another team. However, the Bengals can match any offer given by another team. And, of course, at that point, would sign that player. So here's our 2 restricted free agents, Maan. Both tight ends. Tanner Hudson. What is the chance of Tanner Hudson coming back?
I think Tanner Hudson's 80%, 85%. He really surprised me, surprised the team. He looks good. I think he's definitely going to be back. Let me answer Roshan's question real quick about Karras. Ted Karras did play a lot of guard at New England, and some people think he's a better guard than center. So, yeah, that's one good thing about Karras. He's very versatile, and he could help out at center or guard if something happens. So if the Bengals did draft the center early in this draft, Karras could jump over and play guard if needed. But Hudson is definitely going to be on the team. I really think 80, 85% really, really surprised me because, I was a little ho-hum about him. Looked good this year.
It's going to be interesting to see if another team gives him a contract. You know what I mean? If the Bengals have a chance to sign him the way they want to sign him, or if they're going to wait around to see if somebody gives him uh, a contract and match that. It's going to be interesting to see. The other restricted Bengal free agent, Mitchell Wilcox, a guy who is a special teamer, and we've seen more and more this year, really taking a lot of reps from Irv Smith. Mitchell Wilcox, Maan, is he going to come back?
I think he will. I think they like him. Hudson, Wilcox, and Sample, they're all sort of the same kind of guy. Try hard. Hudson's more of a receiving threat.
I was about to say Hudson's a little bit different.
He's a little bit more of a receiving threat. He's not known as a blocker. But, I guess what I'm trying to say, I don't want to call Sample a journeyman, but the other guys sort of are, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It works for the Bengals. They've done really well. I say 50% for him. I'm going to say Hudson was at 85. I do see a tight end picked early in this draft. I really think the Cincinnati Bengals want to get a Kincaid kind of guy. They want to get a Laporta kind of guy. That's going to have to be in the first or second round.
That would be nice.
One there, they're going to do it because I think that could be the missing element. The last 6 weeks of the season, Jake, this. All 4 of their tight ends were active a lot, and they're coming in and that helped with the running game. So maybe that Bengal offense did evolve a little bit with the injury of Joe Burrow. So I could see the Bengals drafting a lot tight end early.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, all of them except for Irv Smith, who we never saw take the field the second half of the season, which again to me is just absolutely nuts that we didn't see Irv Smith Jr., a healthy scratch. All right. Now, these are the exclusive free agents, guys. And what this means is basically the Bengals can offer them a 1-year contract at like league minimum, and the player can't negotiate with another team. So if the Bengals offer them this 1-year contract, league minimum 1-year contract, the Bengals have them. So it's basically really this exclusive rights thing is if the Bengals want them on the team or not. And guess who is an exclusive right free agent, Mon? Jake Browning, Jake the Snake, who finished 4-3 this year as a starter at quarterback. Does Jake Browning come back to Cincinnati? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. He does. He's going to come back. Pleasant surprise. Won 4 games as a starter. And he showed a lot. I don't want him to play a lot of games next year. I can tell you that right now. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I want Joe Burrow to start all the games. But if Joe Burrow has to miss a game, I have no issue with Jake Browning. I like many other Bengal fans, I was a little I wasn't on the train. Let's put it that way. His first official start was against the Steelers. They lost 16-10. Looked a little stressed there, and but things really took off after that. And Bengals are going to keep him for at least another year. And exclusive rights, I just don't see him going anywhere. And Jake Browning's going to be on the team 100%.
Well, let me ask you this. What if somebody does offer, let's say somebody offers a 4th-round pick for Jake Browning. Do the Bengals take it?
I don't think they do. And honestly, I don't think a team will. I really don't. He played really well, and by no means am I downplaying what he did. I don't think a team is going to offer that. If they do, yeah, I'm sure they'll think about it. I really, really do. I just don't see it happening.
Matt, that's good stuff, Matt. I'm not going to repeat it.
Don't put it up, Eric. Don't do it, Eric. Family show. Okay,
that's good stuff, Matt. And Ronald wants to know: do the Bengals cut Nick Scott? I love it. I know we're jumping around, but do the Bengals cut Nick Scott?
I was looking at overthecap.com. It's a $2 million savings, $2 million cap hit. It could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But at the same time, the Bengals don't like dead money on the salary cap. It's going to be a $2 million hit. if he gets cut, it could be one of the final roster cuts. They're going to see how he looks in camp.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. The last Bengal free agent, who is also an exclusive rights free agent, is our long snapper, Cal Adamitis. Is Cal Adamitis back in Cincinnati next year?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. He's going to be our long snapper for years.
I agree. All right, so that is the list, Maan, of Bengal free agents. An interesting list, right? A lot of role players, a handful of key guys, but a lot of role players on this list, right?
It is. There's some tough decisions to be made. Jake, I sent out a question on social media last week. If you had a magic wand, give me 3 things you would do for the 2024 season. I'm not talking something silly, sign Chris Jones, sign 3 guys for $100 million contracts. We know that's not going to happen. But I shouldn't say sign 3 players. What are the 3 biggest needs for the Cincinnati Bengals? The 3 biggest needs.
I'm gonna tell you what the first one is: interior pass rush. I mean, I think that is I think that's a no-brainer. I think the Bengals have got to find some way to get some kind of interior pass rush on this defensive line. I think it is. I think it's the Achilles heel on this team, not just on the defensive side of the ball, but I think on this team, the Achilles heel is the lack of interior pass rush from this defensive line. So for me, that is my number one thing is going out and finding guys. And really, I want to see it in free agency, Maan. I don't want to see, how I feel about the trenches. I don't like building the trenches from the draft. I just don't see the benefit of it. I think the Bengals need to go out and make a splash in free agency and get a couple of guys that they can rotate in on this defensive line to help with the interior pass rush. I think number 2 is making sure that T. Higgins is back on this football team. I think that is huge. I know a lot of people are on the fence about T. Higgins and what the Bengals should do with him, but let's not forget, when T. Higgins is healthy, this Bengals offense is maybe the best in football when it comes to throwing the football. I think T. Higgins is a key player in this offense, and I think T. Higgins has got to be in stripes next year. And I think number 3, and I don't mean this throwing shade at anyone, but I think the Bengals have got to fix this run game. And if it means going out and getting a new offensive line coach, that's what needs to happen, because I think the run game has become absolutely deficient. I don't think this offensive line is bad by any means. I actually think it's pretty damn good. And we have one of the best running backs in the league. There's no reason why this run game should be as pitiful as it is. You threw out a stat off air to us in our group chat. What was that stat on the Bengals on 3rd and 4th and short? What was that stat?
Dan Horde had it on his podcast with Jeff Hobson. It's been out for a few days, but Dan Horde asked Hobson this question. Man, I love Dan Horde. He's a fan like us, man. He notices the discrepancies, but obviously he can't phrase them like we can.
Right.
But he threw out a stat: the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns. This is not I don't remember the exact ones, but it's close to what he said. They were between 75 and 85% converting 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 last year. Between 72, 73% to 85%. That was the range that those teams converted 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. The Cincinnati Bengals last year were 59% converting 3rd and 1, 60% converting 4th and 1.
That's terrible.
That's unacceptable, guys.
Terrible.
But listen, it's been that way for years. Go back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We can't have it. I'm sick and tired of it. Listen, when Anthony Munoz is saying that on a podcast, when DJ Reader is tweeting that about the Packers the other night, you saw the tweet that he said, they keep on running the ball. They keep on running the ball. Even though they're only getting 3 yards per carry, guess what? It opens up the passing game. That's what one of our key players was tweeting. It's got to get better. I'm going to give you my 3. I'm going to agree on a lot of them. Defensive tackle is critical. I mentioned it earlier. I could see 4 to 5 new faces on that defensive line. We haven't been the same since Larry O left. BJ Hill's a good player. He's playing too much. We need to get somebody in there that gives him some breather, some rest. Zach Carter hasn't developed yet. I still have high hopes for him, but he didn't take that jump year 2, and it burned the Cincinnati Bengals. It really did. They were expecting him to be a little bit more productive. They're going to have to get it, Jake. I agree. It has to be free agency. They're going to spend big money there. A big one here is we need a veteran safety. We saw what happened this year. I don't care how fast you are, Dax Hill. I don't care how athletic you are, all these guys. If you're not in the right spot, who cares? Who cares? We got to have a veteran safety back there that could help become the glue again. Maybe Von Bell returns. Dax Hill is a super athlete. Dax Hill is going to be our future slot corner when Mike Hilton leaves. That's what he played at Michigan. He's a great player. I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL. We need a veteran player back there. And I'm going to interior offensive line. Karras played well. He had some bad moments. Kappa just wasn't the Kappa from the year before. Volson's still trying to figure things out. I think he got a little bit better. We have to be better in the interior offensive line. That's going to help the run game. Guys, the physicality thing, we all talk about it. The trenches got pummeled. Absolutely pummeled, and we have got to get better. We are not going to get where we need to be as an organization unless they fix the trenches. That's what's going to happen. That's what needs to happen.
I agree. And that's kind of what I wrote down here as well. When we talk about team needs, obviously both of us on the same page with the interior defensive line. I know a lot of Bengal fans want to see Chris Jones. I don't know what the chances of seeing Chris Jones is going to be. Could be very slim, especially if they do bring DJ Reader back. But a couple other names I've put on here, Leonard Williams and Christian Wilkins, a couple guys who are going to be looking for anywhere from 50 to 60 million over, 3 or 4 years. But both of them very good. Leonard Williams, obviously better against the pass. PFF had him at about a 78 grade against the pass, which is pretty high for that position. And Christian Wilkins really good against the run at a 79 grade. Yeah. So no matter what the Bengals are looking for, I think that's kind of the direction they need to go, is to find a couple of interior guys that maybe one grades out high at, at rushing the passer, one grades out high at stopping the run, and kind of go from there. Also, pass rush. When we talk about edge guys, obviously Trey's one of the best in the business. Sam Hubbard will be back. Miles Murphy, hopefully we see a step up from Miles Murphy. Didn't see a lot from Joseph Asai this year, but a couple names that I really like, one being Danielle Hunter from Minnesota. I think he fits this Bengals defense, would be a great addition to this defensive line, a guy you can move inside and outside. Any edge rushers that you would like maybe to see? You're muted, Maan. You're muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now? My dog was barking. I'm sorry. I just didn't want you guys to hear.
You're good.
Now, edge rushers. Of course, if there's an edge rusher out there, Bruce is asking some really good questions. Osai was expecting to take this big leap, and he hasn't. I think, they're really going to bank on him again next year. Jake, I think the money has to go on the interior. I've said this a million times. You've said it. The year we went to the Super Bowl, we got almost 15 sacks from Hill and Ogunjobi. Since Ogunjobi left, I don't think we've combined for 15 sacks from the interior in that 2 years. It just hasn't happened. We need another player like him, because if we can get consistent pressure, as you said, up the middle, it's going to help Hubbard. It's going to help Hendrickson. It's going to help them tremendously. we had a sneaky over 40 sacks this year as a team. And, that looking at that, I was surprised. But majority of that was obviously Trey Hendrickson. He was a one-man show. Hubbard was hurt with his high ankle sprain, but we need more interior pass rush. It will take this defense to another level, and that's where I think we need to spend the money on the defensive line, not defensive ends.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Offensive line, real quick, a couple guards out there. You have raved about the Los Angeles Rams and the rebuild they have done. Kevin Dotson, the guard from Los Angeles, is an unrestricted free agent. He'll be sitting out there. Trent Brown, a guy that Zim absolutely is in love with from New England. He is also out there. Do you see the Bengals going out and making any type of a splash at offensive line?
I don't think. I think Jonah Williams. I think their average says he's going to get a 4-year, $64 million contract. That's what Pro Football Focus thinks. That's not going to happen in Cincinnati. Trent Brown is rated higher than him on their top 100 list. I think he's 30 years old. He's played well. He's been a solid starter. I could see the Bengals trying to potentially get him. The Bengals are going to look at the trenches. They really are. And you are right about the Rams. I was mesmerized how they have rebuilt that roster. Jake, they went all in to win a Super Bowl. They traded so many draft picks away to get Sue and all these other players, and it worked. They got their ring. I remember saying it last year. They're not going to be good for 6 years. They're not going to be relevant. Look at all their draft hits. And these are 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks. That's what we need to do. I'm telling you right now, that front office deserves a lot of credit because they rebuilt that roster and they rebuilt it quick. Yeah, they have an elite quarterback. I get it. But some of those guys they drafted are studs, and Bengals need to do that.
And I think the Rams got 12 to 15 sacks this year from those 2 rookie 3rd round guys. I mean, that's incredible to hit. What'd you say?
Toby Turner from Wake Forest. 3rd round pick. I think he had 9 sacks. That wide receiver from BYU. He's uncoverable. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, they hit big. All right, last one, DB. You talked about DB. Let's throw out some names real quick. I'll give you a couple. L'Jarius Sneed from Kansas City. At corner, a very physical guy. He's going to demand quite a bit of money, but it'll be interesting to see if the Bengals go after him. I know he doesn't have a very good relationship with our guy, so might be interesting if Jamar Chase says no to that one. Kendall Fuller, a guy that can play safety and corner, a guy that I really like. I would love to see the Bengals go out and get a guy that can play corner and safety, is kind of a Swiss Army knife, so to speak. And another guy, Kyle Duggar, a guy that does really well covering tight ends, covering slot guys. He's not obviously a slot corner. He's a safety, but he's very athletic and is very good in coverage. Any of those names sound good to you at DB?
I think Duggar would be interesting. I think he played for the Patriots, did he not? I think he was huge. Belichick loved him.
Yeah.
If Belichick gets a job somewhere, I can see him jumping there. That's what I said earlier. I really think they're going to try to keep Awuzie because he knows the system. He knows the coaching staff. They think he's probably going to get better. He's going to be 1 year removed from that ACL surgery. They're going to try, but of course they're going to look at other places. Jake, while you were talking, I'm glancing at this list. There are so many quality defensive linemen that could come in and be space eaters to help our linebackers out. That's another reason Pratt and Wilson really struggled this year. The defensive line didn't help them. It didn't help them at all. And losing Ron Bell and Jesse Bates, they were doing a little bit extra trying to compensate there. I expect them to return to 2022 form next year with better defensive line play. But there's a lot of players out there that could help the Cincinnati Bengals on the defensive line. Tart, they put in a waiver claim for him. He ended up going to the Texans. There's a Grover Stewart that plays for the Colts, big guy. He's a 51st rated player on Pro Football Focus. A lot of guys out there. It's going to be a fun off season. I think the Bengals are going to be very active.
All right. Last thing, and we're going to get out of here. Tell me the percentage of Brian Callahan being back on this coaching staff next year in Cincinnati. He's got his second interview, a face-to-face interview with the Tennessee Titans. Maan, is Brian Callahan, a guy that's had 4 interviews, is he going to be back in stripes next year, or is Dan Pitcher going to be the new OC? What do you think?
If you asked me this question a month ago, I'd say 100% he's going to be back in Cincinnati. I had no idea he was in such demand. 4 job interviews. That's a good look for him. I think he's going to get one of them. I really think he's going to get one of them. And I just hope we don't lose pitcher also. That's a big hit. But you know what? If that happens, we got Alex Van Pelt that was just fired by the Browns. He has a history of the Cincinnati Bengals. He could come in and be a quarterback coach, potentially a offensive coordinator. There's a lot of options out there. And I think the Bengals would be ready for that. I would love pitcher just to slide in if Callahan does get one of the jobs. But I think Callahan will. I'm going to say 80% he gets a job.
Wow. All right, guys. That is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. If you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. If you like this podcast, make sure you give Maan and I that 5-star review. We would very much appreciate that. As always, follow Maan on Twitter at @TheFireMaan. Follow me on Twitter at CoachJakeOwens9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash88 with 2 H's. Follow the Wincinnati Podcast Network on Twitter at WincinnatiPod. And as always, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9. On Instagram, the same without the @Bengals_Pulse9. Maan, I love talking free agency with you, but I hate that the Bengals aren't playing. But let's just, if anything happens this weekend, hopefully Lamar goes 1-4 in his playoff reign. That would be icing on the cake, would it not?
It would be. Sorry, Aaron, we didn't answer any of your questions, but thanks for coming in and joining us.
As always, Aaron, good luck this weekend. You got your hands full. Go Texans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We will see you next week.